That creature, she was human once, and sought eternal beauty. For long, the princess's ire transformed her into a monster.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Dark Souls 2 walkthrough. We're at the Earthern Peak, and this is Harvest Valley, the precursor to Earthern Peak and Iron Keep. And I'm like Dr. Zeus rhyming. But this is Chloanne. She is one of the most important merchants on the game. She's also one of the least important people or interesting people in it, because she does absolutely nothing. She sits there all Macbeth with the skull thinking she's baller, and then she goes and sits in Majula an inch away from her father, who she doesn't know is her father, and her father never says, "Yo dog, I'm your father." So it's like some kind of perverted Star Wars, only with none of the fun or interesting things that ever happened in that film. But Earthern Peak and Harvest Valley are areas that I quite enjoy. This place is super poisony, but after you've done it a few times, you realise that there's really not that much here that's worth grabbing, aside from fragrant branches of yore and an early Titanite chunk. Those guys there as well, the giant like ogre golem fellas that are being rode by, I don't know, some kind of zombified Tina Turner. They throw these crazy dark magic orbs at you, which are challenge when it comes to height, but if you're on the same level as them, they'll one-shot you pretty much every single time. It's kind of brutal. But you don't really have to get hit by them unless you're in an area where they can cheese you quite easily, which is pretty much the area coming up next. But luckily enough, you can completely skip them, which is really fun, because nobody wants to fight two giant magic spamming idiots in a really tiny corridor. And I think it's really just, it's another example of one of those gauntlets that are super unnecessary, because it doesn't add anything to the game. Much like this area in Poison. Why has there never been a ring that makes you immune to poison in these games? It just doesn't make sense. Like, I've put all poison resist you can have, all the rings, all the outfits. You know, I've even boosted my stats so that I've got some wicked poison resist, and it still poisons me in seconds in this place. It is so pointless, and it's to the point where I don't even fight it anymore, I just accept it. And if you farm the mosses, then you're fine, because you can just keep popping the mosses, but it's just, I don't think it's very fun. I think that's my problem with it. It just isn't fun. And on Dark Souls, sure, in Blacktown there was the bog at the bottom which could poison you, but they designed it in a way where if you knew where you were going, you could hit certain paths and never be poisoned. You know, if you had decent poison resist, you could navigate the area well enough where that poison wasn't an issue. And there are parts of Harvest Valley where you can't get to the collectible, pick it up, wait for the character to recover, then get out of there in a feasible enough amount of time to not be poisoned. So all it does is it turns it into an area that is mandatory on poison, and that's about as fun as it sounds. And as cool as this place is, I don't think that is an interesting conceit in any way. I don't think there's anybody who's like, the poison really adds to that area, because it doesn't. It doesn't make it feel nerve-wracking, it doesn't make it feel tense. You're just poisoned a lot, and it consumes a lot of healing items. And for as much as I really dislike Black Gulch, at least they made the poison interesting. And once again, I don't agree with it, because I don't think that something jizzing on you would stun you the same way an arrow does when you get hit in the face with one. Because getting splashed in the face, as many internet videos have taught me, doesn't stun you. Sure, you might close your eyes a bit, you might flinch a bit, you might get a really overeager Japanese guy pulling on your hair a bit, but you don't do that stupid can't move, squatting, doing some kind of fucking yoga pose that you do on this game, which I hate. I would remove it if I was king. And I should probably talk about where I am right here. This is a trap, as you can tell. It's a really mean-spirited trap, because you're in a place where you're fighting really tanky enemies that walk through hits, and there's tons of them. And it's just like, how do they anticipate a melee player like me would ever really fight this room? Like, if you've got pyromancy, it's easy. It's not that bad when you've got a weapon when you know what you're doing, but it's just, it's a hit and run test of patience rather than a test of skill. And I'm going to completely skip it, guys, because I just came here to grab the fragrant branch of yore and maybe pick up this lizard, but this lizard is a tricky one without range. And it's tricky because of that. Another thing that I will never understand why it's made it into the game. It's just strange. And a lot of people are like, well, you missed. And it's like, sure, but I was as close as I could physically be, and I swung down with my weapon. So, in my world, that should hit because it's a video game, and video games give us those kind of, you know, flexibilities. Because they sure as hell give the enemy those flexibilities, which, say what you will, it's not very fair. These guys are interesting too. The hammer that they swing has a concussive impact, and the concussive impact knocks you over. I'm not too sure if it does it if you've got a ton of poise, but it's very powerful. And they're an enemy that, if you get hit, you're doing it wrong. Because you're supposed to hit them first and stun lock them to the kill. That's the best way of dealing with them. If you wait for them to swing first, you're going to get yourself in a bad spot. If you swing first, they're the easiest enemy on the game. But just be aware, if you can't crush the poise and they finish that swing, you're in for a treat, because it hurts. It hurts a lot. And this is the Covetous Demon. So I'm going to show you an interesting strategy with the Covetous Demon. Whereas there's these pots hanging in the sky, and if you shoot them, it drops hollows into the room. And because this creature is very gluttonous, what he does is he focuses on the creatures that you drop into the room, and he eats them. The only problem is, in the animation of eating, he gets a massive damage resistance. His defense gets boosted immensely. Until that point, however, he's very vulnerable. The only thing you need to bear in mind is he's kind of shit at navigating, so if he has to move to get in line with the thing he wants to eat, he'll do that hit he hit me with earlier, where he does the big roll over, and if he touches you with anything, this boss does massive damage, because he doesn't really do too much else, so they've given him, you know, really, really high attack power. And it's not the cleanest Covetous fight, but it just further reinforces that that boss is one of the simplest on the game. I do enjoy him though. I've read a lot of comments of people saying that they think it's one of the worst in the game because they literally stood there swinging at him and he died. And that can happen, but it doesn't happen every time. So anybody who expects to do that every time against that boss is either getting very lucky or they're killing him so quick that, you know, it could have not ended any other way. But this is the mannequins. That is one of the combos that is incredibly dangerous. It starts with a dashing slice. Pretty much all their combos start with a bit of a wind-up, which is what makes them a lot fairer than the Rouge guys. Rouge? Why did I say Rouge? Rogue. It's that Rouge water in my brain. So, in one regard, they are fairer than the Rogues, but on the other hand, the Rogues don't do anywhere near the damage that the full combo that the mannequins have. It's very dangerous, and this is an interesting enemy, this guy, because he's dangerous, but you can run past him and he swings at you and he falls off himself. So instead of trying to pull him, you want to just run past him because he will kill himself. But I think I've just showed you a terrible way of doing it. We'll soon find out. Yeah, he's back, so don't pull him, just run towards him, run around his right hand side, he'll do a swing at you and it will knock him off the edge. The thing that you need to be aware of here is if you go too close to the ladder, you will force a spawn of mannequins like I just did, which is very stupid. And the guy that just died, his weapon is buffed with an elemental, which means it'll go through your shield, and that's one of the things that make him more dangerous than he perhaps should be. Is just the fact that you can't block him, and a lot of people on their first playthroughs, myself included, were getting very attached to the shield because that's how we played Dark Souls 1 on our first playthroughs. And on this game, there are instances where the shield will get you killed. But this is another one of those moments which is very tricky to figure out unless somebody tells you or you're playing online so you can see the signs. But if you light the bonfire and then you light your torch, you can actually burn the windmill. And what it will do is it will get rid of the poison in certain areas of this giant windmill. Because somehow the windmill is, and the energy that it provides, is powering the distribution of poison. And the boss of this area is essentially a rip-off of Medusa, who gets healed by poison, and her entire room is a lake of poison. So now that we've burnt that, it's going to remove the inner plinth of the combat arena, and it's going to give us a chance against a boss who can be very tricky because she's got wicked range on that spear. Her magic is very fast, and she's just one of those bosses that isn't hard but can kick your ass, if that makes any sense. But the strategy I'm about to show you on her is incredibly powerful, so if you've got the dual clubs, you do not have to worry about this boss one bit, because we're going to stun lock her. Word of wisdom here: you can only break the pots with the iron-tipped arrows. I guess it's about as realistic as this game gets, but it is kind of annoying, because it's never explained, which you don't really expect from these games if you've played them before. But at the same time, what the hell is the difference between an iron arrow and an arrow that fires lightning? You know, you would think that they both do a very similar job of, you know, directing force to a point. So it would be nice if you could break them with anyone's, but alas, you cannot. So up here is this guy. He has the sickle blade, and he's also wearing the brigand armor, which is a starting class on Dark Souls, the original. And he drops it too, which is nice. But here's an illusory wall. There are two, one on either side. One is a petrified something, which is this, one of the starting gifts. And then the other one is a bonfire, which on one side it's a fantastic place to put a bonfire because it's bang next to the boss door. On another side, there's those arseholes blocking the boss door, which is another design I'm not a big fan of. But a lot of people are giving this game shit now that the honeymoon period has worn off. You know, a lot of people saying, you know, get back to Dark Souls 1 and all that. This is trash and shitty, and I just don't think that's the case. I think this is a fantastic game with problems. And I think a lot of people forget that Dark Souls 1 was a fantastic game with problems. And a lot of the people that are the most bummed out about this are the ones that are trying to have Dark Souls 1. You know, this is not the original. This is a new game, and you need to treat it like that. And if you keep treating it like the game that you spent thousands of hours on and adored, you're not going to enjoy it, because it's never going to be what you want it to be. Just like this fight, you know, she wants to hit me with that big stick and her ugly ass face, but I'm saying no. Take my double maces and take them all. And there you go. Potentially challenging boss, very, very simple with dual maces. And then all that's left now is to run up here before those guys come in the room, because they're very eager. And then once you go up this lift with the absolutely terrible graphics, I mean, look at that, it's two-dimensional. And it doesn't make a single lick of sense, because there's a lift from the bottom of No Man's Wharf, sorry, and Last Bastille. And it has three-dimensional designed elevator. They could have just taken the exact same asset from their big library of assets and used that, but instead we get this horrendous 2D elevator. So strange. But thank you for watching, guys, and as always, you take care now.